I'm Judy Mikeson from MRS Bulletin and speaking here today with Loucas Tsakalakos from L3 Harris Technologies. He is chair of the Materials Research Society Government Affairs Committee. Loucas, thank you for joining us.
Thank you very much for having me, Judy.
Loucas, I hear that 2021 had been a very busy year for the Government Affairs Committee. I wonder if you could first introduce what the committee does.
Yes, thanks, Judy. Thanks for this opportunity to share what the MRS Government Affairs Committee does and what our goals are. We are acting on behalf of the Materials Research Society membership and advocating for materials research funding. Obviously, our focus is on U.S. Government funding, but we, of course, are here to support all of our members across the world as well. We want to ensure that there is not only sustained funding for materials research, but also growth in that funding of materials research, not only for this year, but even, for many years to come. So that is really what our goal is. And 2021 was particularly busy because we had many meetings with various aspects of the government to advocate on behalf of the community.
What were some of the activities? I heard something about Congressional Visit Day.
So I would say the core aspect of our activities, one of the key meetings that we have every year are the Congressional Visit Days. And obviously last year we were not able to go in person. So we had many Zoom meetings with members of Congress, or typically with their staff, and informing them about the importance of materials research, giving them very concrete examples. And we typically do that in the spring and in the fall, and we had sessions in both spring and fall last year. Of course, typically we actually go to Congress, we go to the Capitol Hill and meet directly within the offices, and we hope to be able to do that sometime soon here as well.
Okay, so who did you meet with last year?
So again, many members of Congress from different states. We typically pull members from not only from the Government Affairs Committee, but even from the broader MRS membership, and those who are constituents of those particular members. We will sit down and have a discussion. Typically, it's a half-hour discussion with a staffer, and of course, sometimes we get into very specific topics that the staffer may be interested related to their particular district. But really, many different both House members and Senate members. And their staff throughout the year.
Okay. Were there any specific bullet points that you asked the MRS members to talk about?
Yes. So we first of all we like to inform the members, the staffers, what materials research is, right? Because they may not even be aware. Some people are not technical, right? So first of all, we make them aware that materials research is, in terms of our membership, obviously we're 14,000 members plus within MRS, and we're not only material scientists and materials engineers, but we're, physicists, chemists, mechanical engineers, chemical engineers, and many other disciplines that are involved in materials research. And we try to help them understand how fundamental materials research and ultimately materials engineering is to the technology base, really, of society, right? And without materials, all of your engineering systems just would not exist, right? And we try to make that clear. And we give some concrete examples. For example, we talk about power electronics. So as we're moving more and more into renewable energies, power electronics become very important. Well, those are based on wide bandgap semiconductors, and we show a very concrete example there of how that, the basic research in wide bandgap semiconductors that was, probably started 20 plus years ago is making an impact today. We talk about light emitting diodes as well, which really you can trace it to the first LED in the 60s, but there was sustained research, through the 70s, 80s, 90s, 2000s to enable general white light illumination using LEDs. And those are just some of the examples that we show. We talk about 2D materials. We talk about diamond-like carbon, which is used in manufacturing, and many other examples.
Okay. That sounds great. What I was thinking about is some members who can't make it to DC, and especially if we're able to go back on site, but they may still want to participate and advocate for the things MRS is advocating for. I understand that you also have a letter writing campaign.
That is correct. We are very active in letter writing, and some of those letters, those are actually posted on the MRS website for anyone who wants to look at them. But last year we were very active in participating in numerous topics, that we feel is important to the materials research community, and of course we get broad buy-in from the membership for these topics. But things like, funding for basic energy sciences within the DOE, funding for the defense science and technology, initiatives, NSF, energy and water based funding within the DOE. So we are very active. We even wrote a letter last year in support of researchers in Afghanistan, and helping researchers involved within Afghanistan, potentially how they could come to the U.S. or other countries as well. So we're very engaged through letter writing. We also write specific position papers, if you will, right? So a more technical, let's call them white papers, if you will. Well, one example that we worked on last year was for COVID. So we discussed, the importance of materials research within the whole area of COVID response, and how important it was to have basic understanding of materials in development of the various technologies that were developed, in 2020 and in 2021 through the pandemic.
Right. That's fantastic. I mean, it sounds like what the Government Affairs Committee is doing is really keeping Congress informed of the value of materials research and what we're accomplishing, so that we can keep being funded.
Yes, absolutely. And it's Congress. I mean, we do have some interactions with the executive branch, some interactions with, some of the agencies as well. And we, again, make sure that we're giving the message of, the importance of, again, not only sustained funding of materials research, but growth in that funding and in specific areas, as I mentioned before.
There's also the White House Office of Science and Technology Policy. What type of interaction do you have with them?
So last year, we actually started an interaction with the OSTP, and we had some very good discussion, good strategic discussions. Again, making the OSTP aware of, the importance of materials research. What are some of the big important, let's say, wow factors where materials research has had an impact, either on specific applications or programs funded within the various agencies that are, really doing breakthrough research and technology development. And so we initiated that last year, and we're looking forward to continuing those conversations with the OSTP this year as well.
Okay, good. You mentioned some letter writing campaign also about the situation that happened in Afghanistan. Can you talk a little bit more about that?
Yeah, so the committee was very concerned about materials researchers and researchers in general who were caught up in the situation that occurred in the late summer in Afghanistan. And so we felt it was important to, write to Congress and, voice our support for those researchers and, anything that could be done to support them, potentially have them, as people were coming over to the US and other parts of the world, to help those researchers if they chose to leave the country. So we felt it was very important. Obviously, that was a very difficult situation, and the committee felt that we should voice our support for those researchers in Afghanistan.
I'm aware that the committee has done this before too on behalf of researchers in other countries when there was some troubles occurring. So it's not the first time we've done this. So another project I'm aware of with the committee is during the spring and fall meetings, we would have government agencies come to talk about funding. And now, of course, we've had our meetings virtually. Is that a project that GAC was able to continue?
Yes, and actually was quite successful last year. Again, this was an online format, and because of that, we were able to actually hold some of these agency information sessions after the main meeting itself, actually the week afterwards. And we had a lot of participation online. A lot of people joined where different agencies, whether it was in the DoD or the DOE, were able to come in, or other agencies were able to come in and kind of just give an overview of what their priorities are for science and technology development. What are the mechanisms to interact with those agencies for researchers who have new ideas. And so, yeah, we had a very strong response last year. For example, after the fall meeting, which actually last year was in person. We were very happy to have participation in person last year, but there was an online component, and the actual interaction with the agencies occurred the week after, and again, tremendous response from the community to join those meetings.
Often it comes down to where can I get my research funded, and our committee is very engaged with that.
Yes, and I do want to thank really all the committee members really for enabling all these activities. But certainly, Josh Caldwell from Vanderbilt has been instrumental in helping us set up the CBDs and these sessions with the agencies. Boris Diakin helps us a lot with the grassroots, the letter writing campaigns. And of course, there are many, many members on the committee who are involved in those initiatives, as well as my colleague, Damon Dozier from the headquarters, who's instrumental and, is the executive director for government affairs. And we work very closely to ensure that we're able to interact and advocate on behalf of the community.
So I've got another question now for members who may want to get involved with the Government Affairs Committee. How would they do that?
Yeah, so first of all, we are very committed to having any member in the society who wants to join. We are very open to that. We are very committed to having a broad, diverse community, and so we welcome all candidates of all backgrounds to join us. And we've actually, in the last year, been very strong in bringing in a diverse group of new members into the committee, and we're looking to expand that, this year and beyond. So certainly welcome anyone who's interested to a link on the MRS website, but there's also an email that they can send an email to if they're interested in volunteering. And I believe the email is volunteers@mrs.org. Please correct me on that.
Yes, the email is volunteer@mrs.org. Terrific.
Yes.
Thank you for telling us what the Government Affairs Committee was up to last year, and we're looking for a very productive this year too.
Great. Thank you so much, Judy. It's been a pleasure to speak with you. And again, it's an honor to be involved with the Government Affairs Committee of MRS, and really appreciate your time.
You're good. Again, I'm Judy Mikeson with MRS Bulletin. You can find us online at www.mrsbulletin.org. You can follow us on Twitter at MRS Bulletin. Thank you for listening.